This is a Danish English special report on Denmark's move to ban marriages between close relatives, February 2026. Greetings and welcome to Danish-InfoNews TV. The report outlines the background and objectives of the proposed ban, presents key political statements, and explains the existing legal framework governing marriage and religious ceremonies in Denmark. Its purpose is to inform the public clearly and factually about the scope of the proposal, its legal implications, and the principles underpinning Danish marriage law, including voluntariness, legal validity, and protection of fundamental rights. Marriage and religious ceremonies between close family members must be prohibited. The government will introduce a ban on marriage between first cousins and between uncles or aunts and nephews or nieces. Religious marriage ceremonies within the same group of persons will also be prohibited and made punishable. The primary purpose is to prevent forced marriages and negative social control. A marriage must be free from coercion and pressure, regardless of the culture or traditions that may exist within a family. However, in some environments, marriage is used as a means to oppress and control young people, particularly young women. Therefore, the government will present a bill to prohibit entering into marriage in Denmark between first cousins and between uncles or aunts and nephews or nieces. In line with this, the government will introduce a ban on the recognition in Denmark of foreign marriages between related persons. The bill is primarily intended to prevent forced marriages and negative social control. At the same time, it aims to limit the risk of children being born with serious illnesses, as there is a documented link between genetically related parents and an increased risk of hereditary diseases. At the same time, the government will prohibit religious marriage ceremonies without civil validity and other marriage-like relationships between related persons. This will mean, for example, that religious ministers who conduct such ceremonies may be subject to criminal penalties. The same will apply to related persons who enter into a religious ceremony without civil validity or other marriage-like relationship. In addition, the government proposes to extend the provision of the Aliens Act, allowing refusal of spousal reunification if it is considered doubtful whether the marriage or cohabitation was entered into or established of both parties on free will. The bill will entail amendments within the areas of responsibility of the Ministry of Justice, the Ministry of Social Affairs and Housing, and the Ministry of Immigration and Integration. Ministerial statements. Minister for Immigration and Integration Rasmus Stoklund states that, in his view, cousin marriages are an outdated and patriarchal tradition that does not belong in Denmark. He welcomes the ban being introduced not only in the Marriage Act but also in the Penal Code, emphasizing that it should not be possible to circumvent Danish law by marrying in a mosque instead. Minister for Social Affairs and Housing, Sofie Hæstrup Andersen, highlights that Denmark is a free society, but for some women and men, marriage unfortunately becomes a tool for negative social control. The government will not accept this and is therefore introducing bans and penalties. Minister of Justice Peter Hummelgaard stresses the need to combat all forms of negative social control and parallel societies where religious considerations are placed above democracy and equality. He underlines that marriage-like relationships used to control young people within families and have no place in a democratic society. Minister of Culture Jacob Engelsmith welcomes the establishment of a clear boundary, noting that marriages between close relatives can be used as a tool of oppression and social control and do not belong in a modern society. Minister for Ecclesiastical Affairs, Morden Darlin, emphasizes that forced marriages and negative social control violate fundamental freedoms and that the new ban strengthens efforts to protect especially young women. Facts about the bill. On 19th of January 2025, the government published A Free Life in Denmark. The government strengthens efforts against negative social control and parallel societies, which includes 22 initiatives. A ban on marriage between cousins is one of 5 proposals under the initiative area concerning strengthened efforts against parallel legal practices. Because a ban on marriages between cousins or other related persons requires legislative change, the government has prepared a bill that has been sent out for public consultation and is expected to be introduced in February of 2026. The primary purpose of the bill is to counter forced marriages, arranged marriages, and negative social control. Anyone entering into marriage must do so free from coercion, pressure, or expectations, regardless of cultural or family traditions. Legal framework for marriage and religious ceremonies in Denmark. In Denmark, there are several ways to get married, and the legal framework ensures that both civil and religious ceremonies may have legal validity. The following provides an overview of the applicable rules. First, basic conditions for marriage. Regardless of whether a couple chooses a civil or religious ceremony, the general requirements of the Danish Marriage Act must be met. Age: both parties must be at least 18 years old. Religious marriages involving minors are illegal in Denmark. Voluntariness: the marriage must be entered into freely and without coercion. Certificate of marital status, prøvelsesattest. Before the ceremony, the municipality must issue a certificate confirming that the legal requirements are met, for example, that neither party is already married. The certificate is valid for 4 months. Witnesses: at least 2 witnesses must be present at the ceremony. Second, religious marriage in the Church of Denmark, Folkekirken. A marriage ceremony in the Church of Denmark is legally binding and does not require a subsequent civil ceremony at the town hall. Membership: at least one of the parties must be a member of the Church of Denmark. Parish connection. Couples have the right to be married in their parish of residence. Marriage in another church requires a special connection such as baptism or previous residence. Same-sex couples. Since 2012, same-sex couples have been permitted to marry in the Church of Denmark. Individual priests may decline to perform the ceremony, but the parish must then provide another priest. Third, marriage in other religious communities. For a religious marriage outside the Church of Denmark to be legally valid, the religious community must be recognized or approved to perform marriages. Recognized religious communities such as the Catholic Church, the Jewish community, and the Methodist Church have permanent authority to conduct marriages. Approved religious communities, including many Muslim, Buddhist, and Christian free churches, may conduct marriages only if the priest or imam has personal authorization from the Ministry of Ecclesiastical Affairs. Important: if the religious community or officiant does not have marriage authorization, the ceremony is regarded solely as a religious act without legal effect. In such cases, a civil marriage at the town hall is required for the marriage to be legally valid. Fourth, marriage versus blessing. These concepts are often confused, but there is an important distinction. Marriage, or wedding ceremony, the legal act by which a marriage is entered into. Church blessing, if a couple is already married civilly, they may subsequently receive a church blessing. The ritual resembles a wedding ceremony but has no legal effect. Next steps. If you are planning a wedding in Denmark, the first step is to apply for a certificate of marital status, prøvelsesattest, via boa.dk. Conclusion. The proposed ban on marriages and religious ceremonies between close relatives marks a significant step in Denmark's ongoing efforts to safeguard personal freedom, prevent coercion, and strengthen equality before the law. By addressing both civil and religious marriage practices, the legislation seeks to close legal loopholes, reduce the risk of forced and arranged marriages, and counter forms of negative social control that particularly affects young people and women. At the same time, the report highlights the existing legal safeguards that regulate marriage in Denmark, ensuring that all legally recognized marriages, civil or religious, are entered into freely and in accordance with the law. As the bill proceeds through consultation and the legislative process, continued public awareness and informed debate will remain essential. Danish-InfoNews TV will continue to follow the development of this legislation and provide up-to-date, factual reporting on its progress and impact. Thanks for watching. Until next time, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the video.